Just like when we were able to layer the audio tracks so we could listen to multiple songs at the same time, we're also able to layer the video tracks so that we can watch multiple videos at the same time. So let's say, for example, that I went on vacation and I took lots of pictures and I wanted to put them together in a video. Now, one thing I could do would be add them one right after another, just in sequence. But it would make for a pretty boring project. Now, yes, I could probably add transitions between each of these shots and it would make it a little bit more interesting. But another thing that we could do would be show multiple photos at the same time. To do that, all you simply do is stack them on top of each other. Now, whenever you're stacking images on top of each other, the thing to remember is that the topmost image, so whichever is on the highest track, is the dominant picture, meaning that whatever's on the highest track is the one that you're going to see. All the other ones are going to be hidden. Another thing to remember is that if the pictures on top are smaller in size than the one on the bottom, it's going to show through. Now, this is going to be true of video as well as photos. We're just using photos for a demonstration purpose. So if we were to look at this picture, you'll see this picture is smaller. So this picture on top is smaller than the picture on the bottom, so you're able to see through it. We're able to fix all of this, so don't worry about it yet, but it's something to keep in mind. So in the last video, we talked about how you could pull the opacity down on your photos and on your video. Just to show you real quick what that'll look like, so let's just take two videos that are the same basic size, just make that a little longer. If we turn on video 2 track, because that's the track that it's in, so now we can see the opacity tool. If we pull that down, you see now we're able to see through the mountain into the Taj Mahal behind it. This again works on video, and this is one of the ways that you often see people do ghosting effects, where the person or the video that's on the top track, they simply pull the opacity down so we're able to see through it, and it kind of looks like there's a ghost on the screen. Other things that you can do once you start stacking these videos up is to simply change the size of them. So we stack them on top of each other, and right now I'm actually going to pull the video track down a little bit to make it a little bigger, and we have less audio just because we're not using audio right now. So if we look at these 4 tracks, they're all stacked on top of each other, and this picture of Nova Scotia is on the top, so that's the one we see. But what we can do is if you click on it, double click on the picture itself, we now can move it around. Now what's cool about this is if you go to the side of it, any corner will do. Just like any other program, if you grab the corner and pull it down, you can shrink it. Also, if you put your mouse right on one of the corners, you see you get the little spin tool. You can rotate the size of it, so if your pictures came in sideways, you could flip them around, make them right side up. Or if a picture is a little bit smaller than the frame, you can make it just a little bit bigger so that it fills the frame out, just to make it look better. Or in some cases, you can do split screens. So we're going to make, say, this picture over here, throw it in the corner, and this one's actually not quite straight yet. There we go. And now we take this one and we throw it, I don't know, this corner down here looks fine. And now we take this one and we throw it in this bottom corner, make it a little smaller. And then we take the picture that's in the back. And now we throw it up in this top corner. Now, of course, this is just kind of thrown in. You know, if you do this, you can use a little bit more finesse with it to make it look a little bit more precise. But you can see how it's able to make things look a little bit more interesting. So if we watch this, they're all right there. And you'll notice they'll disappear in the order of their clips expiring. So this clip is the shortest, so it's going to disappear first, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the things you can do is actually change the length of these clips so that they kind of step down. So this one's going to expire first, or this one's going to turn off first, then this one, then this one, then this one. So let's go through, and we'll watch it, and disappears, disappears, disappears. Probably not the order I normally would have done it in, but you can at least get an idea of how that's going to work. Now that we understand that we can move these pictures around a little bit, there's a few more interesting things that we can do. And that would be applying motion to the image. This is one of the more advanced techniques that we're going to be doing in these early level classes at least. But once you get the hang of it, you're going to be able to do some really interesting techniques. It's really just a matter of your own creativity and how you decide to use it. So what we're going to do is, let's say we have this picture right here of the Taj Mahal, and we're looking at it. All right, that's great. But it may not be particularly interesting. So one of the things that you might want to do with it is, as we're watching this video, maybe we want to have the camera ever so slightly zoom in on the building itself. You'll see this all the time in documentaries, way more so than you see it in any sort of fiction, but you see it absolutely all the time in documentaries. In fact, it's often called the Ken Burns effect, after the really famous documentarian who uses this technique all of the time, where whenever there's a still photo or even video in a lot of cases, he slightly zooms in on the picture just to make it a little bit more interesting. Now, to zoom in on a picture, again, you're going to be using the keyframes that we talked about that we were using with the audio. So remember, when we were talking about audio, you'd add a keyframe to one point, and then you'd add a keyframe to another, and you'd make a change, and the computer would know that between point A and point B, it needs to change. So we're going to do something very similar to this. So to add motion keyframes, and again, this is something you can come back to multiple times if you need to refresh yourself, or to simply just ask if you need help remembering where the buttons are, how to use this technique. But what we're going to do is you first make the image look like, and again, this does work on video, what you want it to look like when it first shows up. So when we first see this picture, I want it to look like this. I think that's a good size. I think that's all right. I don't really mind right now that it's a little black on the sides. That's fine. We can ignore that. So that's what I want it to look like. And then at the end of the clip, I want it to kind of zoom in a little bit on this center section. So if we open up the clip, double click it, open it up, now it shows up in our source. This is where we can work on it. We're again going to go up to this Effects Control tab. If we click on this, we have an option called Motion. If we open that up, it's going to say that we have a position and scale, and these little buttons right here says Toggle Animation. What that's going to do is, if we click those buttons, it's going to add a keyframe for us. So how this is going to work is you simply make the image look like what you want it to look like when it first shows up on screen. Then down here, which you'll see this clip down here coordinates with up here, so you can move it around up here as well. Decide about how far into the clip you want this motion to start. I'm going to say right here is good. Just a couple of seconds into the clip, I want the motion to start. So you put your play bar at that point, and remember, once these keyframes are in, you can move them if you want to. So I think right there is good, and I'm going to click where it says position, and I'm going to click where it says scale, and now all of a sudden, two little keyframes showed up. But we don't really know what to do with them yet. So now we go to where we want the motion to end. And I'm going to say I want it to go here. Now remember, the longer amount of time the motion has to do its thing, the slower it's going to go. So this one I'm going to assume is going to be a pretty slow motion. Now all you have to do is change your picture. So double click on it so you can change it. And I'm just going to come down here to grab it a little bit, make the picture a little bit bigger, and pull it down. So now when it ends, this is what I want it to look like. And as you see, as we made that change, it added the keyframes for us. So now when we go back and watch it, it should zoom in. And it is. And that's a pretty perfect, nice, slow little zoom in. And it's something that we just kind of guessed on. Now, even though I just kind of pulled the picture around and was eyeballing it, you could always come over here, and when you go to add your next keyframe, which I just added another one on accident, instead you could be very precise and actually add specific numbers. See, because as I grab scale, it'll zoom in and out for me. As I grab position, it'll move it to one side or the other. So you can be very precise with it by using the specific numbers, or you can just kind of eyeball it depending on what you want the project to look like. And you really can make this look like as much as you want. You can make it look absolutely as crazy as you want, or you can make it look as subtle as you want. And that's all there is to adding your motion keyframes.